4-260-1870 or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, good morning. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We're on till 10 o'clock. Give us a call or text us at the Oakland Heart Talk and Text line at 260-1870, 260-1870. Good morning, Albert.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We were gone for a couple of weeks. We went to across the Atlantic with 5 couples who I went to LSU with. And do you know what we were doing at 2 in the morning? Watching LSU baseball. Watching LSU baseball.
Yeah.
So
I would bet that.
So we were but what I wanted to talk about about the baseball games, just something that's not probably going to be talked about. But the LSU won yesterday 12-0. Dallas Baptist probably had its worst game it played all year. 4 errors, 7 walks. They just didn't play well. They're a very, very good mid-major team. They've been to the College World Series before. They're probably the best mid-major team over the last 10 or 15 years in college baseball. But LSU won enough games in the regular season to get a national seed and to be the home team for the regionals and hopefully for the super regionals. But that is so important because what happened on Friday was they had 2 rain delays. Well, first of all, when you're the home seed, you get to choose when you want to play. And LSU always chooses to play the first game, which is normally around 3 o'clock on Friday, so that if they win, they'll have basically almost 24 hours rest. Whereas if you play the 7 o'clock game and you win or you lose, you maybe only have 12 hours of rest. And if you win, you only have 18 hours of rest. And also, when you have these rain delays and these sort of things, when you're at home, you sleep in your own bed in the confines of what's familiar, whereas if you're away, it's a little more difficult. Now, LSU had the rain delay and played instead of at 2 o'clock, they played at 7 o'clock. And they finished about 10:30. And then Houston Baptist and Rhode Island had to play 11, and they didn't finish till 2 in the morning. And I will say this. Now, this is where the home field advantage really comes into play, and that's why it's so important, because the last 2 years, LSU, 2 of the last 3 years when we didn't have home field for the regionals, we lost, and we were out. Is that Dallas Baptist finished at 2 in the morning. They probably didn't get in to sleep till 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they had to again play at 8 o'clock. And they played like they were playing at 2 in the morning. They played like last night, like they had been up all night. And anybody who's if we had to stay up all night and we have to go to work, we're going to be off. And Dallas Baptist played like it had, where the hangover of playing to 2 in the morning was very prevalent throughout the entire game. I mean, they are one of the best defensive fielding teams in baseball. They have LSU and Dallas Baptist have almost a 98.2% fielding percentage, which is, is for LSU is as high as it goes. And they played like they were tired. They played like they had played, 2 in the morning, and that's the advantage of getting the home field for the regional and super regional. When you have these type of variables that go into the series, such as rain delays and other things, it's easier to adjust to those delays if you're home in your own bed. You could be, or in your own locker room. Whereas if you're for an away team, you don't have that level of comfort and facilities available to you and that sort of thing. So we were very, LSU was 19-11 in the SEC regular season. If they were maybe 17-13, 16-14, they would not have had a home regional. They would be like Alabama,
Right.
who lost. They would be like Florida, who lost. And so in Kentucky, who lost. So I think the key, and it looks like, you still have to play, but they're in fantastic position to get to the super regionals. But the fact was, all that work and all that success in the regular season and the SEC season was such an advantage over the last 2 days, especially with these rain delays. And it was such a disadvantage to this Dallas Baptist, because Dallas Baptist, if they would have won their conference tournament, they would have probably been hosting. They're a good team. Now, I think the other aspect of this, and it was a very interesting decision. Dallas Baptist was down 5-0, and they have two starters. They started Micah Buckman, who was actually on the end of the bench for LSU last year, or end of the bullpen bench last year, and transferred to Dallas Baptist. And he had been injured for a while, and this was his second appearance after his injury. But they were down 5-0, and Dallas Baptist's coach decided to bring its last starting pitcher to come in and try to stop the bleeding. Well, he wasn't able to stop the bleeding, and LSU did win 12-0, and he didn't pitch that bad. There were just errors, some walks, and it was just too much, and they were sort of were hung over. But here's sort of the I guess what Dallas Baptist is dealing with tomorrow. They have to beat Little Rock tomorrow, and they don't have any pitcher. They burned all their pitching. They burned their best pitcher yesterday trying to hold a 5-0 lead or stop the bleeding. Didn't work, so they have no pitching, and they're going to have to throw their best pitcher against Little Rock. And then when they come back against LSU tonight at 8 o'clock, pregame at 7:30, they're going to be way, way down in the bullpen, and we're probably going to start Chase Shores, or maybe Robbie, Evans, or Cowan, which are SEC grade pitchers, and it'll be too much to overcome. So, congratulations.
So Doug,
yes.
I want to change the subject a little bit here.
I know.
I think you might owe Derek Carr an apology.
Oh, I think okay.
I think, yeah, because a few weeks ago you were burning him on how selfish he was. He should have let everybody know he was this, he was that. All these things that you were saying about him. But when have you seen a player
give up $30 million?
$30 million. That's right. To do the right thing. And so he wasn't saying anything about it because I'm certain that his agent was negotiating with the Saints on his departure. And so he kept it quiet, and he was like, look, people think they know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. And so what he was saying, and here's a guy, he gave up $30 million. He could have had his surgery, not played it down next year, and the Saints would have owed him another $30 million. And he walked away from it and said, I've made enough money in my career. I'm going to do what's best for the organization and, not play this game where I'm hurt and my shoulder's hurt and they're going to have to keep me on the roster and pay me.
Very, very.
So, yes.
Very admirable.
Yeah.
No question. Very admirable. Very, very admirable that he did that. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. He didn't need to take that $30 million. I think, again, I don't know that, I will say this. I will eat crow and say that's very admirable. And I think it's good for both. And, he did have a lot of, and I think he did, as far as the integrity, part of my complaint with the Saints was they didn't do their due
diligence
in adding him, as in the sense of I would have been fine with him as a quarterback at $10 million a year, but not at $150 million. And I thought it was a bad decision on the Saints, and it was a situation that was doomed for failure for Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. I didn't see a pathway for success in either side, and I don't know that it just didn't work out, and so yes, I'll gladly apologize and say I had it wrong.
There you go.
One other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be very, very sensitive, but I'm going to talk about it because I think it needs to be talked about. Zion Williamson, and he had allegations of a lawsuit for rape, and I got to be sort of careful in how I say this, but for the last, first of all, for the last 3 years, when we talked about it, I said they need to move this guy. They have to move him. He is bad news. He's a cancer. Now, part of the reason I was saying that were for reasons I could not disclose over the air because I had firsthand knowledge to his off-the-field behavior, off-the-court behavior, which I'm sort of bound by a certain level of confidentiality.
And honestly, I did too. I had some people that knew him very well tell me stories about hotel rooms with different women on the same night and all these kind of games that he was playing, and again, it's a $20 million, $30 million a year, 20-year-old kid, right? You give somebody that kind of money who can't handle it, and yeah, are they going to make stupid decisions? Sure they are.
Well,
and so that's not an excuse. It's a reason. It's not an excuse. It's inexcusable. But look. But again, if you're playing on the field, and if you're, you can't expect every one of these kids to be, the perfect gentleman, the perfect speaker.
Right. I understand that.
From their background, right? And even kids from a more traditional background, that you can't expect that they're going to be, when they get that kind of money, that kind of fame, that kind of popularity, Zion's pictures everywhere, 50 feet high in the arena. Again, it's not an excuse. It's a reason why you sort of have to, not expect, but at least understand that this kind of behavior may happen.
I will. Yes. Well.
The question is, how does it translate to the court?
Well, but also too,
it's on the court.
It's to the degree of recklessness, and
yeah, no question.
And
no question.
And I think I learned the information more in the context of professional sense. Just I'll leave it at that. But first of all, here's my thoughts. Well, first of all, it is, yes, they're going to be stupid, but there's levels of stupidity that is manageable,
no question,
and levels of behavior that's not manageable. And his has never been manageable from the very beginning. And there's a lot of dynamics. He does not have anybody in his inner circle who's going to tell him no and hold him accountable. They had a general manager for the Pelicans who just tried to appease him and never put his foot down and say, oh, come on, Zion, rather than saying, this way, the highway, and taking that risk to rein him in at the risk of losing him because you already lost him anyway. His behavior off the field has been extremely reckless, self-destructive, without any type of moral compass. And when I read it in the paper, my thoughts was, I'm surprised these allegations didn't happen sooner. I'm not saying he did it. I don't know. There's only two people who know. I would guess that there's probably culpability on both parties. When I was an agent, I used to always tell the players, stay out of strip bars from, stay out of them, especially from 12 to 5 and, midnight till 5. Nothing but trouble. Aside from the moral aspect of it, that's not, I don't think you should do that anyway. And to stay out of situations that could be misinterpreted. And when I was an agent, I used to get calls from young women who said they were, they were involved in a relationship and they're having a child, and it turned out not to be true, but the players had put themselves in that position where it could be misinterpreted. And
they certainly have big targets on their back, right?
Right.
They're wealthy. They're young men, and they're out there looking to, cruise the field. But this is a target, and then they, look, this is your baby. You're gonna owe me money for the rest of my life.
But I will say this: if you're being paid $250 million, you have a responsibility. You have a higher level responsibility to act, at least publicly, in a way that's manageable. You don't have to be a saint. You don't have to, but something where your behavior is manageable. And I thought they should get rid of him 3 years ago based on what I knew about him. I am not surprised. I don't know whether these allegations are true or not. I really don't care. But the only thing I was surprised about was this didn't happen sooner, and that he had put himself in these situations, and I'm just surprised it didn't happen sooner. And so when I read about it, I'm like, yes, knew it was happening, not surprised a bit, and maybe more to come. And so, and this is hard. He's a coach killer and cancer. And you got.
I've had friends that have gone to the NBA All-Star Game hotel. He happened to be at the hotel where the game was, where a lot of the players were. He was in some kind of convention or whatever, and he said he could see the players coming in, and he was sitting by the bar, and of course they had all these. I don't know if they were paid ladies of the evening or if they were just groupies wanting to go to the parties or what the case may be. But he said people would come down and say, hey, y'all want to come up to such and such's party? Yeah, you, and you, come on up. And then you, and you, come on up. And so that was,
that's a
P. And so, of course.
You live like P. Diddy.
That was 20 years ago.
Right.
I got to think it's much worse now.
Yeah, but if you live like P. Diddy, you're going to end up like P. Diddy. And so, I mean, it just is what it is, But when you get paid that much, you have a responsibility. And he is going to go down in NBA history as the biggest draft bust in the history of the NFL and NBA. And unfortunately, that happened in New Orleans, and it's just too bad for our city, and it's too bad for our franchise. So let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief timeout.
It's the Railroad Revival Tour.
Weep, little lion man, you're not as brave as you were at the start.
It's a concert with Mumford & Sons and friends. Sunday, August 3rd at Waldenberg Park, and WWL has your tickets.
And I will wait for you.
For your chance to win, go to WWL.com/contest. Sing along with the English folk rock celebration on the New Orleans riverfront. Mumford & Sons, courtesy of Live Nation and WWL.
Lunch was great. Magazine Street is such a fun spot.
Can we stop at a bathroom?
Are you all right?
I keep having stomach issues after eating, like diarrhea, gas and bloating, abdominal pain, and sometimes oily stools.
Sound familiar? Those stomach issues may actually be a pancreas issue called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Creon pancrelipase may help manage EPI. Creon is a prescription medicine used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. Call 800-633-9110 or visit creoninfo.com to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
I'm asking my doctor about EPI and if Creon could help.
Hi, I'm Doug Sunseri with the new Sunseri Law Firm and host of All Things Legal on Sunday mornings on WWL, AM, FM, and .com.
And I'm Michelle Demarest Sunseri. Let the Sunseri Law Firm help you with your estate, probate, family, and business issues.
And I'm their daughter, attorney Katie Sunseri, and we do make the complex understandable.
Call Doug and Katie at our Metairie office at 504-214-9111.
Or you can call me, the boss lady, in Mandeville at 985-624-9697.
Katie, tell everyone who's really the boss.
I'm taking the fifth on that one.
Experience the power, performance, and prestige of a Cadillac from Jerry Lane Cadillac, where luxury meets Louisiana hospitality. From the iconic Escalade and refined CT5 to Cadillac's cutting-edge electric lineup. Like the lyric, Jerry Lane has the vehicle that fits your lifestyle and your future. Unmatched service, unforgettable drive, all within the 225. Visit Jerry Lane Cadillac on Rieger Road or online at jerrylanecadillac.com. Jerry Lane Cadillac. Luxury lives here.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
I really need funding to expand my inventory.
Swish Funding can help you expand inventory, upgrade equipment, and boost your cash flow.
Well, okay, but I need funding fast.
Swish Funding provides funding from $25,000 to $2 million with payment terms tailored to your needs and cash in your account in less than 24 hours.
So what's the catch?
No catch. If you've been in business for at least 1 year with monthly revenue of $50,000, you could qualify. Just go to swishfunding.com to apply. That's swishfunding.com.
All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the York Winhart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, All Things Legal on WWL, AM, FM, Odyssey.com. We're on till 10 o'clock today. June 1st, Albert. I guess we start a new hurricane season, and you have all these predictions, and I don't put a lot of stock in the predictions. I mean, maybe it could talk about certain trends.
I want to be a weatherman.
That's right.
You know what I would love for them to do, and they'll never do it. You know the spaghetti models, right?
Yes.
I would love for them to go back 10 years and track the spaghetti models and see which association, whatever that was in charge of that particular model, has been right the most amount of times. I'm sure there's a program that could probably do it, but I mean, they're all over the place, and so, a lot of times they'll follow each other. I think the technology is getting to the point where, in terms of where the storm is going to go, they're getting a lot better. In other words, the spaghetti models are a little more tightly woven, but it would be interesting to see, whose prediction was the closest to being correct over the last, 10 hurricane seasons.
Well,
and, maybe start looking at that technology as the gold standard.
Yeah, I think they have increased, they have the 72, I guess they were talking about the news break, having a better forecast of landfall 72 hours out as opposed to 24 and 48 hours. And I think at this point, when they say it's going to be above average, or below average, I'm still of the opinion you just don't know. I mean, you just don't know. It's just a guess. And on one hand, you want to be prepared. On the other hand, you don't want to go to sleep starting June 1st, just terrified every time you turn, look at the weather and see some type of rainstorm off that coast of Africa and start getting anxiety about it. So I think you need to have a balance.
They want you to get that, right? So if you're watching the Weather Channel or some weather, oh, look what just came off the coast of Africa. We got to really watch this one, and look, TV is about ratings. And it's about commercials, and it's about, making your stock price go up. So they're gonna tease you with, severe storms threatening to blast, and these kind of crazy overstated. And it's a shame because it ends up being, the boy that cried wolf.
Right, exactly right.
People are going to be saying, "Oh, look, that once again they're predicting doom and gloom," and it turns out to be a nothing bomb, and people are like, "Okay, come on, really?"
Yeah, and so I think I just hate for people to live in anxiety, and I always say, you don't worry about a problem, prepare for a problem, but don't worry about it until it happens, because it's going to rob a lot of joy out your life, from a day-to-day perspective. But let me ask you this: you're the construction guru, you're the construction guy, and we've talked about some of the things you need to do in preparation for hurricane. It's pragmatic, like taking photographs of each room, taking an inventory, and that sort of thing. Right. But from a as a homeowner and someone who doesn't have a lot of, who has, some honeydew skills around the house, is there certain things that you can do? And this is more of a Paul LaGrange question, which you and Paul, what can you do to sort of prepare that would be helpful in a pragmatic sense, for hurricane systems that you would?
So if you look at it obviously, you want a secure roof, right? And so lately they've been promoting well, I'm drawing a blank for the roof.
The spray,
fortified roof. Thank you.
Yeah, fortified roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now lately they've been promoting a fortified roof, and I just had one put on my house. I was fortunate enough to get in one on the lottery, and was able to get a little grant from the state to take care of that. But that's an important thing, because what we've learned from these engineers that study wind and wind related damages is that once that envelope is breached, then now all of a sudden the wind has a place to go, and there's pressure inside of your home, and so the pressure needs to be equal, meaning getting in and getting out. If it's not, then the wind comes in, creates this pressure, and roofs blow off, windows break, all these things, sometimes from the inside. And so you want to block that opening somehow, right? So if you have working shutters, clearly you want to close those shutters so nothing will penetrate your window, and then have an opening where water pours in at the very least, or worse yet, the pressure, forces other damages to occur. If you don't have that, we have this at our camp. Now it's 20 feet up in the air, but we have 3/4 inch plywood and these little screws that kind of stick out on the four corners of the windows. And we keep it in the storage shed, and before a storm comes, the holes are pre-drilled, they're numbered, and you just slide it on, and with wing nuts you screw that on there, and so it prevents projectiles, and it's a little wider than the windows. And it's kind of interesting, because there was a very expensive camp that was built a couple of doors down from us, and they ended up getting water through their windows. Because they did not have the plywood, and our plywood's actually a little wider than the windows. So even if the windows had issues with flashing, or just around the corners, they ended up getting water in. The windows didn't necessarily break, but the water came in from around the outside of the windows because of the that 100 and whatever mile an hour wind that was blowing against them. So that the plywood actually prevented that water from seeping in from around the windows. So if you're at all, handy, you can drill some holes and that's a big deal. Clearly you want to pick up everything in your yard. You don't want projectiles. You don't want things thrown around. They tell you all the time, go, clean the leaves out of your storm drains, get up on a ladder if you can, clean out your gutters. You don't want that water backing up. There are a lot of things that you can do, from a preventative standpoint to minimize the damage. One thing I wanted to mention, and I had a client come see me, and I think that if there are elderly folks listening to, and I consider myself one, right? Elderly folks listening to us today, that if your home is paid for and you're on a fixed income, I have had people contact me. This person contacted me and said, look, I'm being sued for a trip and fall at my home, right, on my sidewalk. And so, but I can't afford $15,000 a year for insurance or $10,000 a year for homeowners insurance. So I don't have homeowners insurance. So your homeowners carrier, believe it or not, would pick up the defense and maybe the payment of that claim under your liability policy. And so, again, I don't recommend it unless you absolutely can't afford it. But if you own your home and there's no mortgage on it, which a lot of, elderly folks have paid their 30-year mortgage off, you can get coverage with and exclude wind. So you won't have hurricane coverage, you won't have, tornado coverage, but you will have coverage for fire, you will have coverage for liability, you will have coverage if a pipe breaks in your attic. You're going to have all of the other coverages except for that wind coverage. And so if you want to run that risk, and listen, the premium will be about 15% or 20% of what the normal premium would be for the full coverage. And again, depending on what your deductible is. So that is a possibility, and I'm not recommending, if you can afford it, to give up wind coverage, because you likely need it. But if in fact you can't afford that full premium, there are other options for you. So you can talk to your agent about getting a quote on what would it be to exclude wind. Because nowadays, you've got such a high deductible, right? And property values have gone up, because what they're doing is the insurance companies have started to rate the value of your home as of the month after the hurricane, not as of currently, or cost to rebuild now. They're rating it now at the cost to rebuild, with shortages of materials and roofers and labor, et cetera, where the prices go a lot higher, because then that's what they end up having to pay. And so, they might say that your 1,000 square foot home at $200 a square foot is not rated at $200,000. It's rated at $300,000. And so you're going to pay a higher deductible just because it's a percentage of a higher number. I actually ended up doing that. I got rid of wind and hail because my deductible would have been so high based on the value of my home and based on the high percentage that I was being offered for it. It wasn't worth it. I'm going to be paying that first big chunk anyway, right?
Right.
So I'd have to buy my own roof. I'd have to buy a lot of damages.
Plus your own premium. It's the deductible plus your premium.
Basically, yeah. So I've got my own risk that I've got to deal with.
A self-insured, yeah. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your Weekend Lawyers, All Things Legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Tiger fans, this weekend LSU hosts the NCAA Baton Rouge Regional, featuring Dallas Baptist, Rhode Island, and Little Rock. Keep it locked on WWL for all the action. We'll take you live to Skip Bertman Field for every pitch, every hit, every home run. The road to the top is happening now. The LSU Baseball Regional, presented by Jerry Lane Cadillac on WWL and the free Odyssey app.
Feel like everything's clouded by doubt? Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com. Our psychics are available to talk 24/7, and we guarantee if it's not life-changing, it's free. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Check the back seat. Check the back seat.
Gets in your head, right? Good, because every year dozens of children are forgotten in the back seat. Cars get hot fast and can be deadly, so get it in your head. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
We all know there's something special by growing up in Louisiana. Our culture, our history, how we care for each other cannot be matched anywhere in the world. The same goes for Louisiana Dental Center, local dentists helping local people just like you and me. And of course, for years, proud partners of our beloved LSU Fighting Tigers. Louisiana Dental Center, your dental home team. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Go Tigers!
Feeling tired, stressed, not quite yourself? Could be low testosterone affecting your energy, mood, and even drive. Kronos Body Health and Wellness specializes in hormone replacement therapy with a personalized approach to boost energy, strength, and vitality. You'll experience improved mood, increased muscle mass, better focus, and performance. Let Dr. Scott work with you to create a custom plan for your needs, restoring balance so you feel strong and productive again. Don't wait. Visit chronosbhw.com or call to take the first step today. CHRONOSBHW.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
All things legal on WWL. Consult with Nico and Sunseri now on the Oakland Heart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870. And don't forget to rewind on the Odyssey app.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll talk a little bit more about beginning of hurricane season, but you did say something earlier about elderly listeners, and you included us in it. Now, are we? Now, I'm asking this for a couple reasons. First of all, when I go to church today, there's a section that is called senior parking, and the senior parking is real close to the church, where the general parking is way far away. So I was trying to see if it was a sin for me to park in the senior parking because I'm good health, work out 4 or 5 times a week, run. I'm good. So is it, maybe I have to get a ruling from the Archbishop or something? Is it okay for me to park in senior parking? I don't think of myself as a senior though. So
I think people should park where they're comfortable parking. If they have trouble getting there, then
all right.
should probably be reserved for those that struggle to get there.
All right. I shouldn't have asked. All right. I got a ruling. All right. We'll park far away.
Unless, of course, it's raining, then it's all bets are off, right?
Yeah. Right. Well, that's true. That's a different deal. We're talking a little bit about hurricane preparation, and I live in the North Shore, and we have a lot of pine trees, and pine trees are meant to be in dense areas. In other words, typically when you're riding down the interstate and you see the pine trees, they're all grouped together, and they're basically blocked from the wind or shielded from the wind because there's just great density. But what we like to do on the North Shore is we like to keep isolated pine trees for cosmetic purposes, just for the visual. But that could be a problem and on the north shore, and that's often a tree coming through the house is something that even if you have a fortified roof, it's not going to help very much. So I guess, and sometimes it's difficult because in certain subdivisions, you have to get approval from the associations to take down a pine tree. And sometimes they're reluctant to do that because they want to keep that aesthetic of, having these trees, dot the neighborhood. So,
well, I can tell you, we moved to Covington in 1972. I was going into sixth grade. And that summer we moved right before going into sixth grade. And we're driving down Janke Avenue. And actually we'd lived somewhere else for a couple of years, and we bought a piece of property on Janke Avenue. And actually it was a whole square ground back then. And on the way, there'd been a storm, and on the way on Janke Avenue, very near St. Paul's, a pine tree had fallen on this house, this 100-year-old house, and literally split it in two. I mean, it was this big, probably 5-foot trunk pine tree, and it fell right through. Well, my mother saw that and freaked out. So because the property was big enough, we cleared the pine trees within distance from our home to where just a canopy, maybe the top limbs might hit the roof if they'd fallen. So for maybe 30 feet or so, 40 feet away from the house, we didn't have any pine trees. So she was out front one day, and some Covington person came up, this old man, he's like, "You people moving here from New Orleans, y'all want to, clear all the trees and everything else. And that's what's so great about Covington is these wonderful trees." And she said, "Take a ride down the street." And she said, "Look at that house." She said, "I'm not having one of these trees kill one of my children or grandchildren." So, and then, he kind of shut up because I think he knew she was right. But yeah, I remember the trees. And again, who can forget after Katrina, which in August 29th would be 20 years from now, 20 years ago. Who can forget? It looked like Lincoln logs. It looked like somebody dumped out a big can of Lincoln logs everywhere, all over people's properties, and it was just trees all over the road and trees everywhere. And some of them were bunched, some of them were, not. And it was just that it was one of those storms that you can't forget.
Hopefully, it's once in a lifetime, but just that would be something. Just survey your yard and see what potential trees that could impact your house, and just make a decision as to whether you want to risk that or not. All right, let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Get the WWL shows you love delivered to your phone free. Download the Odyssey app and follow your favorites. Tommy Tucker, Newell Normand, Scoot. Listen when you want, how you want. Or tell your smart speaker, play WWL. Breaking news about the Saints, Pelicans, and LSU on WWL is powered by BetMGM. Smarter bets start with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app or visit BetMGM.com today. WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier Injury Lawyers. Call 444-4444.
Non-attorney spokesperson, Chad Dudley, New Orleans.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone. I went through it a while back. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text. Text LEAP to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LEAP LEAP to 321321. That's LEAP to 321321.
Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
Where should you spend this summer? At Hooters, of course. Swing into Hooters for our new $9.99 lunch specials. Available Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. Choose from Baja Shrimp Tacos, a quarter-pound cheeseburger, or wings tossed in your favorite Hooters sauce. All served with fries. Plus, don't miss Kids Eat Free on Mondays at Hooters. Hooters has everything you're craving all summer long. Hooters, winging it since 1983.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way.
All right, Albert.
The total amount ended up being somewhere just over 30.
All right, on the phone, you're going to have Keith in Pearl River.
The IRS came to collect.
And he says he has a neighbor that has a tree in his yard, but the branch extends to his yard, and like the dead branches fall into his yard.
And I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a...
It looks like you're going to have about 5 6 minutes at a time.
Okay, perfect.
They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask like 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Gold is soaring to new heights. Invest now with Southern Coins and Precious Metals. SCPM.com.
Reliable high-speed fiber internet with a 90-day guarantee. Let's rev.biz.
I really need funding to expand my inventory.
Swish Funding can help you expand inventory, upgrade equipment, and boost your cash flow.
Well, okay, but I need funding fast.
Swish Funding provides funding from $25,000 to $2 million with payment terms tailored to your needs and cash in your account in less than 24 hours.
So what's the catch?
No catch. If you've been in business for at least 1 year with monthly revenue of $50,000, you could qualify. Just go to swishfunding.com to apply. That's swishfunding.com.
Not available in all states. Rates vary. Building a financial safety net for your family can be tough. But with term life insurance through Ethos, you can have peace of mind that they can pay the mortgage and other bills if something happens to you. With coverage in as little as 10 minutes, all online, Ethos finds your best rate across our multiple trusted carriers. Some policies as low as $1 a day billed monthly. And even in uncertain times, your term life insurance rates and payout don't change. Get your free quote at ethos.com/life. That's ethos.com/life.
All things legal on WWL-AMFM.com and the Odyssey app. Connect with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on the Oakland Art Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go. It's Pete, right? Coleman? It's Pete from Pearl River. Got a question regarding trees. Hey, Pete, you and All Things Legal. What can we do for you, brother?
How you doing? I have on the property adjacent to me, along the
Keith with a K. Keith.
6 feet on the other side of the fence line on my neighbor's property, there's a line of 5 trees planted basically along the fence line, I guess. The first one closest to the street is fine. The 2 out of the next 3 are completely rotten, don't have a leaf, and have been dropping branches constantly over the last 6 months. One in the middle of those 2 has about maybe about 4 or 5 dozen leaves at the top, and these trees are every bit of 40, 50 feet tall. They're not little trees, they're big trees. But the 5th tree in the line is tall enough where it could reach my house if it comes down, and probably half the branches on it are dead. I had read into it and sent a registered letter to the owner of the property. And I told him, I said, look, we discussed this when you bought the property 6 months ago, that these trees are in line of possibly damaging my garage and my home. And he said he would do something with them, but nothing was done. I'm trying to protect myself legally. What do I need to do?
Well, you've done the right thing, first of all, by sending a registered letter, right? So in the event that so we got about a minute left, but strict liability is no longer. In other words, just because you own something doesn't mean, if somebody has an accident on it, that you're responsible. But if it has a defect and you knew or should have known of the defect, then you will be liable for it. And so the fact that you've got written evidence that you put him on notice that his trees are defective and should come down or should at least be pruned, then now he has that knowledge. And so if something does happen from a financial standpoint, at least, his insurance company would be liable for it because he has had notice of it. And so that would be one of the prerequisites to bringing a claim. The other thing which you might be able to do is go to the Justice of the Peace, although that because of the value of cutting that down, the expense of cutting those trees down, I think that's probably what happened. He's like, oh yeah, I'll cut these down, and then he probably got a quote, and I'm sure it's going to be $10,000-$15,000 to cut all those trees because if they're as big as you're telling me, it's going to be a few $1,000s a piece, I'm sure. So I just, you can try to bring an action to have him remove them, but you would need some sort of proof, some sort of arborist to go over there and inspect them, and just give them an idea of what it's going to cost. Say, hey, look, we got to do something at least for that last tree that can reach my house.
Yeah, well, the garage isn't much better because there's a 2017 Z06 sitting in that garage, and I know he ain't going to want to replace that. That'll probably cost more to fix than the house.
Right, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. I think you need to make it clear to him and just reiterate, hey, look, and nothing prevents you from sending another registered letter. Hey, look, this is what this is really a serious situation. It's the start of hurricane season. We really need to get something done on this. I want to be a good neighbor, and I'm trying to work this out amicably, but I'm very nervous about the dead trees.
All right, stay tuned for National News, Local News, back for hour number 2.
Sports Powerhouse, 870 AM, WWL New Orleans, 105.3 WWL FM and HD1 Kenner New Orleans, and Odyssey Station.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Linda Kenyon. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says trade tariffs against China may not mean price increases for American goods because different companies are making their own decisions about whether to absorb the costs themselves.
Home Depot and Amazon said they're not. And
Home Depot and Amazon aren't where you go for your back-to-school shopping. When you buy your jeans, when you buy your crayons, when you buy all those things that parents are going to do.
I don't know about you, but I do it online at Amazon. This isn't an advertisement for Amazon. And guess where most of the Halloween costumes in America get bought? At Home Depot.
Bessent's full interview is on CBS's Face the Nation. The Atlantic hurricane season officially begins today. What to expect?
NOAA officials predict a 60% chance of an above-average hurricane season this year, with 3 to 5 major hurricanes. But above average seems to be the new normal. Since 2015, every Atlantic season has produced more than the historic average. In 2025, El Niño's southern oscillation could intensify storms, so could warmer waters driven by climate change. Hurricane season runs through November. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
Canada is confronting an outbreak of wildfires. Don Wubbles with the University of Illinois says climate change is partly to blame.
It's not that climate change causes wildfires, but that causes wildfires to be more intense.
Wildfire smoke drifting down into the upper Midwest is causing concerns for people with respiratory and other health issues. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 30 Palestinians were killed by Israeli gunfire against Palestinians who were heading to an aid distribution site. Reporter Linda Gradstein has the story from Jerusalem.
The Israeli army did not deny that gunfire was carried out near the aid center in Rafah in southern Gaza, but said it was unaware of any injuries. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the U.S. and Israel, said the aid was distributed without incident and said it had given out 4.7 million meals since they began operating 6 days ago.
New research about the dangers of alcohol.
Most Americans have no idea that alcohol is linked to an increased risk of cancer. A study by the University of Texas found nearly 60% of adults were unaware or uncertain of the link between the two. An estimated 75,000 cancer cases every year are associated with alcohol. And the study's authors say more needs to be done to raise public awareness.
CBS's Michael George. For the first time in nearly a quarter century, the Indiana Pacers are headed to the NBA Finals. CBS's Erica Hershkowitz.
The Pacers dominated down the stretch to beat the Knicks in Game 6 of the East Finals Saturday night, 125-108, advancing to the NBA Finals for just the second time in franchise history.
Game 1 of the Finals Thursday night. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Let's face it, nothing makes you look older than you really are than thinning hair. But what if you could not only increase your hair count, but promote new hair growth without surgery, without drugs with potential side effects, and without a prescription from your doctor? Well, now you can, thanks to a breakthrough new supplement called Hair Grow, provided by New Nordic, the #1 supplier of dietary supplements in Europe. Hair Grow is now available in the U.S. Only Hair Grow contains tocopherol, a powerful antioxidant that has received a U.S. patent. Multiple clinical studies show Hair Grow is safe and effective in promoting new hair growth. In one study, 95% of the patients using Hair Grow saw increased hair count. Don't lose more time and more hair. Try Hair Grow today to feel and look your best. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS. Look younger and feel more confident with Hair Grow by New Nordic at NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
WWL First News. I'm Courtney P. on your official weather station, WWL.
It's another nice day today for our Sunday. We'll have partly cloudy skies with high temperatures climbing to the upper 80s this afternoon. Most of us will trend dry. There is a small chance for a spotty shower later today in the evening. Tomorrow for Monday, mostly dry, a lot of sunshine, warm, and a bit more humid with highs in the upper 80s.
WWL TV meteorologist Alexa Trishler has a full look at the forecast coming up. The search for 2 remaining escapees from the Orleans Parish Jail enters day 16, even with a significant bump in reward money. Antoine Massey and Derek Groves continue to elude capture. The reward for each of them is $50,000 now. You must call Crime Stoppers and the FBI to get that money. 14 people have been arrested, charged with aiding the escapees. 2 of those people have since bonded out. Connie Wheaton posted a $100,000 bond for her alleged contact with Jermaine Donald. Donald, along with Leo Tate, was captured in Texas after leading police on a high-speed chase. They have since been extradited back to Louisiana. And B. Wynn posted a bond of $15,000 for allegedly reserving a motel room for Linton Van Buren before his rearrest. The other 12 that remain in jail have higher bail amounts reaching as high as $2.5 million. Looking to get out this Sunday? The Jean Lafitte Seafood Festival is an option. Here's WWL TV's Mike McDaniel.
Jean Lafitte Seafood Fest will wrap up today. You can expect not just tons of good seafood, but there's plenty of live music, swap tours, a kids zone, and even an art walk. Admission is $20 today, but kids 12 and under will get in for free.
Today is the official start to hurricane season. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts a robust season of 13 to 19 named storms, including 6 to 10 hurricanes and 3 to 5 major hurricanes, Category 3 or higher. The National Weather Service office in Slidell says they are prepared for the upcoming season, saying they are now equipped to issue warnings a full 72 hours ahead of time. That's up from the previous time frame of about 48 hours ahead of storm landfall.
WWL Sports is brought to you by People's Health. Things were clicking early on for LSU Baseball and continued in their Baton Rouge regional matchup against Dallas Baptist.
Right, wait for the TV to catch up, and then voila, just like that, this one's clicked on.
Stanfield drives it deep, and Stanfield puts it into the diamond deck. Chris Stanfield with his first home run of the season.
The Tigers cruised to a 12-0 victory as Chris Stanfield homered and finished with 3 RBI, while pitcher Cade Anderson mowed down the competition, striking out 11 in 7 scoreless innings. The Bayou Bengals are back at it tonight at 8 p.m. on WWL and the Odyssey app. With a win tonight, LSU moves on to host Super Regional play. Steve Geller, WWL Sports.
Now, your Garcia Roofing forecast on WWL.
Happy Sunday. We have more nice weather to enjoy today. It'll be comfortable with low humidity. It'll be warm with high temperatures in the upper 80s this afternoon. We'll trend mostly dry with a very slim chance for an isolated shower during the evening, but not expecting much. Tomorrow to kick off the work week looks good. Plenty of sunshine, a tad more humid, warm with highs in the upper 80s. Small chance for an isolated shower tomorrow, though most of us trend dry. The rest of the work week also will be very warm and more humid with highs near 90 degrees. And we'll see spotty afternoon storms return mid to late week. From WWL Louisiana, I'm meteorologist Alexa Trischler.
I'm Courtney P., WWL First News.
From WWL, the news, talk, sports powerhouse of the Gulf South, it's All Things Legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud. Underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. Join us on the Oakland Heart Jewelers talk and text line, 504-260-1870, or connect anytime, anywhere on the Odyssey app. Now, to our Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union studios in the heart of New Orleans, here are attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri.
Hey, we're back for hour number 2. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, all things legal. Before, just thought I'd make an announcement about Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm and the 2 new firms. I want to congratulate LSU Shreveport, who won the NAIA National Championship in baseball, and they went 59-0. And in baseball, that's not supposed to happen. I mean, you had the great teams, the Yankees in the 40s and 50s, and you've had, all these great baseball teams that, historically have been phenomenal, and they've lost 40 or 50 games a year. I mean, or even the national championship teams, the 23 LSU team, which had, the number 1, number 2 pick in the MLB draft, one of the greatest accumulation of talents, and they still lost, 12, 13 games. So to go 59-0 in baseball, and I don't care if you're playing T-ball in your backyard and you win 59, that's amazing, and I think that's worthy of a White House visit. So, if the White House is listening, you ought to take this team to the White House. They deserve it. What they have done is just phenomenal. So Albert, if you want to explain, we Nicaud and
so we, I'm sure you've probably heard some of the commercials that Doug's been running with the new Sunseri Law Firm. We talked about it last year that Doug wanted to kind of promote his family interest in the firm a little more. I had one of my longtime associates, Jeff Seamson, who's like, look, I'd like to be a part of the action, and he certainly deserves it. So we decided we'd go ahead and divide up the firms. It would be to the Sunseri Law Firm, and Doug and his wife Michelle and his daughter Katie, and a couple other attorneys. They're gonna be part of that firm. And then Nicaud and Seamson, it'll be myself, Jeff Seamson, Brett Goupay, Ramsey Marcello, and Eleanor Schutte. And so we and again, for years and years, we've had separate firms, right? Doug's had his side of the office, my side of the office. We'll still be in the same building. We'll continue to do the radio program. We just won't do the marketing together like we've done in the past. Of course, there's no animosity or anything like that. We're still great friends, right? And it's just it was time to kind of make a move, and again let some of the guys that have been working for me have more visibility, and then have Doug kind of promote the Sunseri name. In his direction. I don't know if you have things to add to that, but all is still fine.
Yeah, all's fine. No animosity. Did you get your house egg last night? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
No,
What about all the toilet paper in your front yard?
That's right. That toilet paper. No, it functions the same, and so when you hear that, don't be confused. We'll be doing this as long as.
Yeah, I mean, we still own our building together. We're going to be sharing our expenses at the building. And very much like we've done all along. And the only difference will be that the marketing will be separate. Right. We'll have separate websites and
basically,
so it's not a whole lot of changes going on.
Right, and basically to let some of the younger lawyers who work with us, as you said, get some more visibility and. they're getting a point in their career where they can step up and make their mark in the way they need to make their mark in the legal industry. So all's good, and so don't be confused. And like I said, I think as long as Diane will have us back, I think we're in year 17. So if they want us back, we'll come back. We've been on 17 years, so I think if we go another 13 years, we can beat Carson at 30 years. That's my goal, is to
there you go.
be on as long as Johnny Carson and beat his record. So also, let's talk about, I guess, for 2 years we talked after Hurricane Ida about hurricane claims, and very well received and very needed. And I don't want to, we hadn't talked a lot about it in the last year or so, but they have a new set of laws when it pertains to hurricane claims. It's going to sort of change the way they're filed and some of the time deadlines and some of the obligations of the insurance company. And these aren't the laws that have just been signed by Judge Landry. This was last year or 2 years ago. And there's probably going to be a little bit of a difference in what you have to do in order to quantify your hurricane claim. And I think what basically, without getting into the weeds of this and just sort of giving you the general overview, is there's probably going to be more onus on the homeowner to definitively quantify their damages after a hurricane or after some type of loss, as opposed to the insurance company having some obligation to quantify it when they come out there before you submit them the actual estimate. So in other words, previously there was case law that was interpreted that said when the insurance company comes out to your home after a loss and they see that there's a certain amount of damage, they have a duty to quantify what's undisputed, and if they don't, they could be the timeline starting to run for penalties and attorney's fees. But Albert, that's changing this next time, and you're going to have to, an insured who has had a loss and property damage is probably going to have to do a lot more in order to engage the insurance company. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, I'm, John Q. Public, and I have damage to my home after a storm, along with, my neighborhood and 10 contiguous neighborhoods. And now all of a sudden it's up to me, to find someone that's going to come give me an estimate in a reasonable amount of time, right? Which I'm certain I'm going to have to pay for that estimate because people are not going to be running around giving out free estimates just so you can get your insurance money. So it's going to be quite a chore for the homeowner. And the sad part is, they asked Greg Talbot this the other day with a lot of these insurance reforms, this next batch that are going through, mostly for automobile coverage. But, he's pushed a lot of these insurance reforms. And they asked him, what guarantees do we have that, changing these laws and making it more beneficial for the insurance company and less beneficial for the citizens of Louisiana, what guarantee do we have that it's going to lower our rates? And he said, well, we don't have any guarantees and no guarantees. And I agree with that. But there should at least be some sort of memorandum of understanding, some sort of letter of intent. Hey, look, if we can have this, this, and this, we'll bring some subsidiaries in to provide coverage, or we'll come back into the state and start writing coverage if it's a more equal playing field, right? We've seen no proof of that. We've seen no evidence of that. And so here they are, willy-nilly, being kind of controlled by the insurance companies with these laws that they're trying to pass and passing like they did in the previous session, with no reciprocal, commitment or even a statement of a commitment from the insurance companies that they're going to bring more insurers into the market. You know, and I think that the state got snowed this time around. You know, they're trying to make all of these different rules. You know, let me ask you. A year ago, they went into all these homeowners insurance changes and property damage insurance changes that you were just discussing. Have your rates gone down? You know, no. Nobody's rates gone down in this year. You know, all the insurance companies knew about it, and nobody, you know, they could have had a good faith effort. Okay, look, the state did something right to make it a little more balanced for the insurance companies. We're going to go ahead and lower our rates 10%. That didn't happen, and so I venture to say it's not going to happen. In fact, the people I've talked to said that their rates went up. They got an increase again, and I know that some of my rentals I've gotten an increase this year after all these changes went into effect. So it's what do we have? You know, I mean, if you're going to negotiate with the insurance company, you know, you need to kind of get in there and say, okay, look, we're going to make these changes, but I need commitments from you that we're going to do X, Y, Z, and we need it in writing, and you're going to come in and do it. And if not, we're going to leave it like it is, because why are we going to screw our own people if they're not going to get some benefit from it, you know, in the form of lower rates? So that's my concern about it. Now they're doing the same thing with auto insurance. Some things I like. One of the things they're doing with auto is they're trying to do a 51%.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I think that's fair. That's a good.
If you're 51% at fault, you're not entitled to any damages. So if you're more at fault than, you know, the other parties, whether it's one or two other parties, let's say in an automobile accident, then you're not entitled to any damages. Well, at the end of the day, you know, the insurance companies make out like a bandit on that, because, you know, yeah, I'm 40% I'm 60% at fault, but I still have 40% of my damages that were caused by your insured. And I'm not getting when I be able to recover those damages, you know, my 40%. So, you know, two cars kind of were riding side by side, and they both ran into each other, you know, and one a little bit more than the other. So it's a 60-40 liability that the jury or judge comes back with. And now the person might be pretty injured with the 40% or the 60% fault attributed to them. And that 40% of the damages that they should have received from the insurance company walks. They don't pay anything, because based upon their insured's 40% negligence in this injury. And so Louisiana had what was called a pure comparative fault system. So everybody would be assigned a percentage of fault equal to 100 of when they're all added up together. And so whatever that percentage of fault was, that's what it was. And if you were the one that was 80% at fault, but the other person and not injured, and the other set, I'm sorry, you were 20% at fault and not injured. The other person was 80% at fault, but they had an injury. Under that pure fault system, that they should have received 20% of their damages, because you caused them 20% of the damages. And so it was a, you know, pure comparative fault system. And so they want to change that to where the insurance companies, if somebody's 51% at fault or more, they get nothing. And now the insurance companies walk. But has anybody's auto coverage gone down? And I can guarantee you next year and the year after that, your auto premiums will not go down despite these changes that they're making. Now, there are other things that, you know, I'm kind of okay with. One is that if you're an illegal, you're not in this country legally, you're not entitled to general damages, meaning your pain and suffering. You can still get your special damages, your property damages, and your.
I want to sort of stop, you know, sort of tell you our experience with this, and I'm sure it's going to rankle a few feathers, but, you know, after Katrina, we had a lot of and we still do have a lot of undocumented workers who file workers' comp claims, and some are legitimate, but a lot of them had assumed names with false Social Security numbers and with false medical records, because you couldn't get the medical records they didn't have, and that was a problem. I mean, that was a real problem. And in fact, it's just an aside, I was reprimanded by the court for referring to the plaintiffs as illegal aliens. They said that was not proper language, which I took my medicine and I disagreed with it, but I think that's needed to be done, because I think I was starting to see a lot of undocumented workers from where I sit in my desk. I'm not saying that there's other points of view, that they were learning how to game the system, and they were learning how to game the workers' comp system, the personal injury system, and there was no accountability, because they were, they weren't. How do you hold it accountability? And so I think that's a very good law, and I'm glad they did that. But I'll just continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, and listen, I talked to some friends that do a lot more personal injury work than we do, and they said, yeah, I have some illegals that I represent, and I said, well, I'm certain that it won't affect you, your claims now, right? It probably will not be retroactive, because it is a substantive change in the law, not procedural. But he said, the problem is, he said, these insurance companies will write insurance to these undocumented, illegals. And so he said, they don't have a driver's license.
Right.
But the insurance companies are writing insurance to them. And so he said, it's crazy. And I guess, when you got 20 million that came across in the last however many years, the insurance company is going to probably say, well, I'm not going to turn that market away. I'm going to write policies to them, and that way they'll have coverage if they're in a wreck, but they don't even have a driver's license. Who's the named driver? And that named driver's not driving legally, because they're driving without a license, and they're in the country illegally. And so it's obviously a dollars and cents decision from the insurance company to write those policies to illegals, but it's in a state of flux, and it needs to be addressed. And I'm happy that the legislature is addressing it. And so it's interesting how it's going to affect the no pay, no play.
Right. That's another law.
Seen that law in as well. You've got to have the coverage to get it, but if they're not entitled to it, so now all of a sudden, it's going to be, let me see your papers is going to be the first thing that the insurance companies are going to ask for. And believe me, they're going to have to ask for it across the board, some sort of proof of citizenship, because, they can't selectively do it, because then, of course, they're discriminating, they're discriminating. So it's going to be a new step, I think, that plaintiffs are going to have to take to establish, either a birth certificate, which, do I want all that information on my birth certificate floating around out there to these insurance companies, right? But you're going to have to provide a birth certificate or a driver's license, and maybe the state needs to make very clear that you have to have a driver's license to get insurance, and that maybe a real ID or whatever the case may be, and then that would be sufficient to submit to the insurance company. Here's a copy of my real ID, which would be able to establish your citizenship.
All right, let's
be really interesting. There's a lot of peripheral things they need to address, but instead of just
all right,
the illegals.
Let's take a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you Weekend Lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
It's Dad's time to score. Show the dad in your life a little love. How about a $1,500 shopping spree at Macy's, just in time for Father's Day? New kicks, fresh fits, or the latest gadgets. Whatever he wants, it's all at Macy's. It's a special prize for a special man. Head to WWL.com for your chance to win. This is a national contest. Good luck and happy Father's Day from Macy's and WWL.
Me and my baby going out for a drive. Oh, baby, oh, baby. My baby and me, we're feeling so alive.
Oh, baby, baby. New Orleans, there's no city like it. The sounds and sights attract people from all over the world. As residents, we get to live it every day. When it comes to shopping and dining, choose local. Local businesses are the heartbeat of our community, bringing a unique touch to everything we do and experience right here in New Orleans. When you shop and dine locally, you're helping your neighbors, your friends, and our city thrive, providing jobs and supporting families. It's estimated that for every dollar spent with a local business, 68 cents stays right here, creating a better life for all of us. Whether it's a cozy coffee shop, a family-owned boutique, or your favorite restaurant, shop and dine where you live, work, and play. Brought to you by WWL Radio and the people who live, work, and play here.
Lunch was great. Magazine Street is such a fun spot. Can we stop at a bathroom? Are you all right? I keep having stomach issues after eating, like diarrhea, gas and bloating, abdominal pain, and sometimes oily stools.
Sound familiar? Those stomach issues may actually be a pancreas issue called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Creon pancrelipase may help manage EPI. Creon is a prescription medicine used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to port, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. Call 800-633-9110 or visit creoninfo.com to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
I'm asking my doctor about EPI and if Creon could help.
Experience the power, performance, and prestige of a Cadillac from Jerry Lane Cadillac, where luxury meets Louisiana hospitality. From the iconic Escalade and refined CT5 to Cadillac's cutting-edge electric lineup. Like the lyric, Jerry Lane has the vehicle that fits your lifestyle and your future. Unmatched service, unforgettable drive, all within the 225. Visit Jerry Lane Cadillac on Rieger Road or online at jerrylanecadillac.com. Jerry Lane Cadillac. Luxury lives here.
Customizing strategies to help you navigate to and through retirement with the help of John Scallon and the team at Cypress Financial. Join us for the Retirement Roundtable every Saturday at 8 a.m. right here on WWL and get more at cypressfinancial.net.
I really need funding to expand my inventory.
Swish Funding can help you expand inventory, upgrade equipment, and boost your cash flow.
Well, okay, but I need funding fast.
Swish Funding provides funding from $25,000 to $2 million with payment terms tailored to your needs and cash in your account in less than 24 hours.
So what's the catch?
No catch. If you've been in business for at least 1 year with monthly revenue of $50,000, you could qualify. Just go to swishfunding.com to apply. That's swishfunding.com.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Now, more All Things Legal, underwritten by Nicaud and Sunseri Law Firm. All advice given and opinion shared are solely those of attorneys Albert Nicaud and Doug Sunseri. Back to WWL.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, you weekend lawyers, All Things Legal. Let's go to text. Let me read out some text for Albert. First text from 2150. Why aren't hurricane roofs mandatory after Katrina? They have been mandatory in Florida since the 1990s.
So what they have done, and there's a difference between a hurricane roof and a fortified roof. So What the manufacturers have done is there's something called Dade County standards in Dade counties in Florida that they're required to install roofs based upon Dade County standards. A fortified roof, they have newer technology in the shingles, and a fortified roof deals more with openings and not necessarily the strength of the roof. So what the latest iteration, unfortunately, it kind of came into fashion after Ida, where so many neighborhoods, probably 70 or 80% of the homes have new roofs and will be on there for the next 15 or 20 years. With the fortified roof, there is a product called Ice and Water Shield, and it's maybe about 16, 18 inches wide, and it's a rubber membrane with a very sticky back. It's a peel and stick kind of thing. So one of the things that you're required to do with a fortified roof, first of all, is a new nailing pattern, right? So everywhere where the decking is nailed onto the rafters, every 4-inch nailing pattern instead of every 8 to 12 inches. So you'll have to nail, and it's a ring shank nail with these little rings on it that hold a lot firmer than a straight, smooth shank nail. So they should be nailed every 4 inches. That's the start of it. Then wherever there's a seam in the decking, they roll a layer of this Ice and Water Shield over it. So even if the roof comes off, even if the membrane or tar paper, whatever you're using between the shingles and the sheathing comes off, the water will, for a long period of time, will likely roll off of that and not pour into the seams between the sheathing. So this Ice and Water Shield at all of the joints and valleys is next. Then they have usually a continuous membrane now that they put over that, which is better than the tar paper, because again, the tar paper has layers. And now there's also a newer shingle. If you've kind of looked at some hurricane damage after the storms, sometimes you'll see a shingle on the ground with nail holes in it where it had been nailed, where the shingle just pulled right off, but the nail stayed in the roof. Now they have a stronger nailing strip where those nails will hold that shingle better because the nailing strip on the shingle is stronger. So all of those things, and then there's certain ways to do your starter courses around the bottom of the roof line, and that's going to give you a stronger roof. But Dade County, they've lately been requiring that.
Paul and Hammond at the certified roof.
They require the metal strapping, all that sort of thing to strap the framing together. You have cross bracing in the attics and things like that to just give the structure stronger, to where it's strapped all the way down to the foundation. So that's been in place for a while with the International Residential Code.
There you go.
Code, I'm sorry.
All right.
So I think we have a call.
Yeah, we have a call. Paul from Hammond, the home birthplace of Kim Mulkey. Hey, Paul, what you have, brother?
Me and my wife and I built a house last year, and we love it. We've been in it for about a year. But as we were building it, we wanted a certified roof. And we followed all the steps. We had the underlayment and the tape the seams and all that. But we also have a metal porch instead of a shingle porch. Everything's shingle except for the porch. And our insurance agent at the time said we couldn't qualify because we had metal. Have you heard of anything like that?
I have not. I don't know why because it's on a porch and not a living area. I don't know why that would be the case. I know, again, one of the things I did at my camp was use the closed cell foam in the attic with my metal roof. And it kind of, I don't know if you ever saw a cut open ice chest with that foam that's stuck to the plastic. You just can't pull it off. And it kind of creates that barrier, right? So I don't know why. I know that the fortified roof deals with seal tab type roofs and not metal roofs, but I don't know, because it's over a non-living area only why you wouldn't qualify. I would look into that and contact somebody at the state.
We went with a different company. When we was done construction, we was going to go with this company to insure it, and then after we did our mortgage, we got a different company. But anyway, I have pictures when they built the roof of them certified, putting the underlayment on it, taping it up, everything. But when we got down
under the metal,
no, not under the metal. Metal is just on the sheeting.
Okay.
It's got the underlayment and the sheeting, but they don't have the tabs, so they couldn't put the. They had to have staples so many feet apart. And I think those little tabs are little. I don't know what it's called, but anyway, I went to the insurance agent at the time. He gave me a questionnaire we had to fill out. It's like a checklist for my roofer to check to email him back to him. But whenever he saw the metal on the roof on the porch, he said it wouldn't qualify. I don't know what the deal is.
I mean,
could I go back to the insurance?
I would go back to him and say, look, it's not over a living space. So what if you could have a front porch without a roof?
It's a farmhouse look, and we want that look on the porch. And it's just right on the porch, and it's gavel them. It blends in really well with the house. But I didn't hear anything about metal. He said that metal will not. But if you have a completely metal roof, that doesn't qualify either.
That's what I understand. Yeah, because that's a different, it's a different system, and maybe they'll come up with something for that to And I will say that I've seen it back and forth where the people that have the shingle roofs, down in those hurricane-prone areas, ended up better than those with the metal, because if they're not screwed down properly, the metal, they'll start to peel like an old can of sardines, and so that's one of the issues I think they worry about, that uplift. But if I think you could probably get some sort of exemption, because you could have a front porch without a roof on it, right? So whether it's made of metal or plastic or nothing, right? You could have that front porch with no roof. So it's not covering a livable portion of the home. So I don't see why that would prevent you from getting your fortified roof. And again, I've got a fortified roof, but nobody wanted to make any concessions from the insurance companies as to how much they were going to save me. So it's kind of frustrating.
Well, when they did the porch, they had already done the underlayment and taped it and put the little tabs on it to hold it down like it's supposed to be. But then the contractor said to put the metal on there, they had to take the tabs off or lay flat on the underlayment. So it still got the underlayment and the tape. They just don't have those little tab things.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I think your best bet is the fact that it's not over a living space. So what difference does it make? I can have a back porch with no roof on it. I don't have to have a roof. I could just have a deck, basically, porch. So why does it have to be fortified when it's not necessarily protecting anything on the interior? So I would go back and talk to somebody, and maybe even talk to someone at the state, who's running that fortified program. Send them photographs and say, hey, look, they're telling me I don't qualify for the program, but if you could certify me, then I can go ahead and send this to my insurance company.
All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to a break. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers, all things legal. We'll be right back after this brief time out.
Tiger fans, this weekend LSU hosts the NCAA Baton Rouge Regional, featuring Dallas Baptist, Rhode Island, and Little Rock. Keep it locked on WWL for all the action. We'll take you live to Skip Bertman Field for every pitch, every hit, every home run. The road to the top is happening now. The LSU Baseball Regional, presented by Cummins on WWL and the Free Odyssey app.
Here's a few questions for you from California Psychics. Do your workdays seem to go on forever? Is your career progression as fast as downtown traffic? Or does your boss still not know your name?
Hey, you, Tina, Lisa, Sheila, whatever. Get that report to me by lunch, okay? It's Terry, ma'am. Just get it done, Terry.
It's time to read the career warning signs and talk to California Psychics. We're always on hand to give you the career guidance you need. You see, we only connect you with the very best. In fact, 98% of the psychics who apply to work with us don't make the grade. That's why we can guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. So you could soon be telling your boss where to stick that report.
Where are you going, Terry? Terry!
Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics. Call 1-800-PREDICT today and get 20 minutes for just $20.
Where should you spend this summer? At Hooters, of course. Swing into Hooters for our new $9.99 lunch specials. Available Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. Choose from Baja Shrimp Tacos, a quarter-pound cheeseburger, or wings tossed in your favorite Hooters sauce. All served with fries. Plus, don't miss Kids Eat Free on Mondays at Hooters. Hooters has everything you're craving all summer long. Hooters. Winging it since 1983.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788. 800-906-1788.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
We all know there's something special by growing up in Louisiana. Our culture, our history, how we care for each other cannot be matched anywhere in the world. The same goes for Louisiana Dental Center, local dentists helping local people just like you and me. And of course, for years, proud partners of our beloved LSU Fighting Tigers. Louisiana Dental Center, your dental home team. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Go Tigers!
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the Big Wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
All things legal with Doug Sunseri and Albert Nicaud on WWL and Odyssey Station. Connect now on the York Winhart Jewelers Talk and Text line, 504-260-1870.
Hey, we're back. Doug Sunseri, Albert Nicaud, your weekend lawyers. This is the All Things Legal. It is not the Home Improvement Show with Paul LaGrange. Paul,
It's a legal question.
It is. But you're good at that.
His roof.
You multi-dimensional. You can give
Real quickly, what's your prediction now? So Vegas has the Saints winning 4 games, coming in dead last in the NFL with the first round pick next year.
Well, my
How many
prediction:
games do the Saints win this year?
5. But here's what's going to happen. I think they're going to start off very slow, like maybe 0-8, 1-7. But the second half of the season, you're going to see improvement. That's my thought. Now, with Derek Carr,
pretty weak schedule, which is good.
Yeah, but they do have a week. They start out with the Cardinals, and I just think there's going to be growing pains. There's a couple of observations I have. First of all, do not put a lot of stock into the quarterback competition during minicamp. The most important aspects of being an NFL quarterback is accuracy, getting the ball out early, and processing, none of which you do in minicamp. You really don't. And so you just don't, I appreciate the fact that everybody's hyped up and we're no longer going in the wrong direction. The car has turned around in the, down the one way, from going the wrong way on a one way, street. But, I listen to some of the podcasters. They're ready to put a gold jacket on Shuck. I mean, Shuck may not be in the league in 3 or 4 years, or he could be a starting quarterback, or he could be an above average quarterback. But we just don't know. So, I'm hopeful, but the reality is, we'll see. And now I will tell you this that gave me a little optimism is watching Kellen Moore conduct himself in press conferences. I think Dennis Allen, I was so sick of football platitudes. It's like listening to a politician who recycles talking points that you just don't even want to listen to it. And Kellen Moore is very thoughtful and very specific in his analysis as to what he's trying to accomplish. And I was, mildly impressed with the limited interaction with him, watching him on, in press conferences and answer questions. He's very specific and has a very specific plan, and he articulates it well. And it's not all a bunch of BS football platitudes that he says. So that was a little bit encouraging. Whether that translates into wins or not, I don't know. But I think the bleeding has stopped. I think we have bottomed out. We're at the bottom, but at least we're looking up, and we're not, continuing to dig ourselves in a hole. And I think what happened is Derek Carr did do us a favor because we were doubling down on the mistake. I mean, the administration was like, we're going to make Derek Carr work. That was the posture. Now, whether that was behind the scenes or not. And I think once you make a mistake, you cut, just like with Zion, it's a mistake now. Cut bait and get rid of him. And so I think it'll be fun to watch. In a sense, you'll see growth rather than regression. Now, the growth will be from zero, but we will see growth.
I think they win 6 games.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's the NFL, and even bad teams win games. So, and look, I think they've got enough players. I think they've really tried to address the offensive line, which makes everybody better. So and let me tell you, they Kellen Moore, I don't know how much he had to do with the offensive line and the offensive scheme in Philadelphia, but they have a great offensive line. I mean, and they were able to, they'll always make the first down on 4th down with their little wedge quarterback sneak, and they, so they've got some scheming that they do that make the players all better. So I think that there's been a lack of head coaching and a lack of coaching overall since Peyton left, and so I think the players on the team and the scheme and the offense, I think we're going to be a little surprised. We're not going to make the playoffs, but I think we're going to be a little surprised that, hey, these guys that we have on our team are pretty good, and now that they're coached right and put in the right position, and their expectations are not overstated, and they know what lane they need to be in. Hey, they're going to all play better together.
I think when you have a team that should win 9 or 10 games that wins 4 or 5, there's expectations are met and there's a lot of angst. But if you have expectations for 4 or 5 games and they win 6 or 7, you exceed expectations, and people are happy about that. So the expectations are low. As far as quarterbacks are concerned, Tyler Shuck is 2 or 3 years away from being to having enough sample size to determine whether he's going to make it. They're just going to have to take their hits this year. And, he's going to have his 4 or 5 interception games. He's going to make his mistakes. And you're just going to have to roll with it and hope that he develops into the kind of quarterback who can, lead us. After the break, I'm going to address something that is being said that's incorrect in the media about number one draft picks of quarterbacks for the numbers with the Saints. So we'll be right back after this brief timeout.
Get the WWL shows you love delivered to your phone free. Download the Odyssey app and follow your favorites. Bobby Hebert, Mike Detillier, Steve Geller. Listen when you want, how you want. Or tell your smart speaker, play WWL. Keep it locked on WWL for breaking sports news. Powered by BetMGM. Smarter bets start with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app or visit BetMGM.com today. WWL is proudly sponsored by Dudley DeBosier Injury Lawyers. Call 444-4444.
Non-attorney spokesperson, Chad Dudley, New Orleans.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone. I went through it a while back. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text. Text LEAP to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LEAP to 321-321. That's LEAP to 321-321.
Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
Where should you spend this summer? At Hooters, of course. Swing into Hooters for our new $9.99 lunch specials. Available Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. Choose from Baja Shrimp Tacos, a quarter-pound cheeseburger, or wings tossed in your favorite Hooters sauce. All served with fries. Plus, don't miss Kids Eat Free on Mondays at Hooters. Hooters has everything you're craving all summer long. Hooters, winging it since 1983.
Big cash giveaway, yeah. $250,000, yes. The next 10 months, GimmeTheVin.com is giving back. Everyone that sells us their car gets put in the drawing, and monthly we're pulling out $25,000 and giving it to you. So, not only are we the top of the market buyer, but you got a chance to win $25,000. That's what we mean by big cash giveaway. GiveMeTheVin.com. They don't call us America's best car buyer for nothing.
No purchase necessary. For official rules, go to GiveMeTheVin.com.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVin.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
Insurance companies have teams of professionals to fight your claim. If you want to know what your case is really worth, I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 475-2323.
LA 167908.
Glow Resources, complete employer solutions. GlowResources.com.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter.
All right, then when we come back, I'm not going to play a regional. You can
Okay.
take it away.
At My Computer Career, cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
At California Psychics, we know that sometimes you can wake up thinking,
I don't know if I'm in the right career, or the right relationship.
But whatever your life dilemma, at California Psychics, we'll give you the guidance you need to feel certain about your life choices. And because we only connect you with the very best, we guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. California Psychics. Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com today for limited time offers.
Take it away.
All right. LSU Tigers. Pre-game 7:30. First pitch 8 o'clock. Tune in to WWL AM FM. Odyssey.com. Listen to Chris Blair and either Buzzy Heidel or Thompson. One thing I want to say, I'm going to correct the media for the last time. the media keeps saying that Tyler Shuck is the highest draft pick for a quarterback for the Saints since Archie Manning in 1971. And that is not true. Dave Wilson was picked in the supplemental draft number 1 by the New Orleans Saints. They had the number 1 pick because the year before they had George Rogers. They had the supplemental pick for number 1, the first pick in the supplemental draft, and they picked Dave Wilson. So Dave Wilson was a number 1 pick in 1981 under Bum. So when the media keeps saying Tyler Shuck is the highest draft pick in the NFL draft since Archie Manning at number 2 in the 1971 draft, that is not correct. So just for correction, because they had a supplemental draft. They had a supplemental draft, and you see, if the Saints wouldn't have picked him first, then whoever was the second pick in 1981 would have had an opportunity to do it. But when they picked him in 1981, they gave up their draft pick for the next year's draft, the number 1 pick. So he was the highest pick. But I just want to have that correction out there. But we all remember. We all remember Dave Wilson. He competed with Bobby Hebert. Bobby Hebert beat him up when Jim Mora became head coach. All right, Albert. Any parting shots?
What you gonna be doing at 2:00 today, Dad?
What am I going to be doing? I don't.
Yeah.
What's going on?
You gonna be watching a little LSU baseball?
No, they're 8:00 tonight.
I thought they had the afternoon game.
No, 8:00. First pitch 8:00. Pregame 7:30. 2:00 is going to be the Dallas Baptist and Rhode Island game, which.
Okay, I'll have it backwards.
No, Dallas Baptist and Little Rock. What I will be pulling for in that game is extra innings. So we want Dallas Baptist and Little Rock to play like a good 15-inning game, burn all the pitching, and then come back and play LSU just to make it easy on us.
Hopefully no rain delays.
No, it's beautiful today. They're not expecting rain, and it's low humidity, and it's just the box is going to be kicking. So that's what I'll be doing at 8:00. 2:00, I'll be preparing for the 8:00 game. So, all right. So we'll see you next week on All Things Legal. Y'all have a wonderful week. Enjoy the beautiful day today, and we'll see you then. And as always, we say, go Tigers. Thanks.